Welcome to Vivid Talk Live. I'm your host, Gwen Witherspoon. I'm the principal and chief visionary officer of Adam Red, an Atlanta branding agency. I'm a brand strategist and a better life coach. Vivid Talk Live is all about your personal and professional development. I am here to help you learn a fresh way of thinking and doing for all you were designed to build. I'm streaming live to Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. You can watch the stream from those channels and on my website at gwenwitherspoon.com. Replays are available there as well as on IGTV and Twitter. Make sure you follow your favorite channels so you'll receive notifications when I go live. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, 2 weeks ago, I shared 5 unique brand personas. I'll remind you of those when we get started because no matter the category you fit into, each one has its own set of sub-brands or products that you need to develop. So we're going to continue talking about engineering your corporate DNA that we started last week. Only tonight's focus is going to be on answering the question, how are you going to get it done? Because you were born to produce. Please introduce yourself in the comments. Your questions are welcome. Katrina and Ron are helping me monitor the chat. Thank you so much for joining. Please share the link with your friends, invite them, tell them about the replays. We'll get right into it after this. So don't forget to follow at Gwen Fuchsius on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and Gwen Witherspoon Coach on YouTube. And my website is gwenwitherspoon.com. I mentioned that you can watch the replays. That's also where you can just find out all the information about me. You can watch on live right from the website. You can see the replays from the week before on the homepage. And if you click this lovely button, watch more replays, you'll also see all the replays from every episode. You can shop the store. You can see all the brands that I've created, am creating, that I'm affiliated with to help you even more. And then you can also contact me. And you can check all my social accounts. So there's no excuse. You can find me. So tonight I think is going to be good. And I probably need to break this up into at least 2 episodes. So we'll see how it goes. But I think I always start out thinking that I don't really have a whole lot to say. And I'll write down a few bullet points. And then next thing you know, it's almost an hour later. Hey, Nedra. Hey, Renee. Good to see you. But yeah, so almost an hour later, then I go, oh, I talked forever. So I kind of feel like I have a whole lot more to say, like more bullet points that I'm starting with. So I'm thinking this might need to be split up into some sections. So I need to make first a couple of connections. So 2 weeks ago, I talked about, I shared a couple of, let me see, what were I'm looking at my old replays here. The topic from 2 weeks ago was your gift is necessary. Your gift is necessary. And one of the things I covered was 5 brand personas. And they were thought leader, influencer, personality. I changed this one. I can't remember exactly what I said. It was scribe. I was kind of playing with what I should call that one, but later on I got some clarity. So I'm going to call it curator and then advocate. Thought leader, influencer, personality, curator, and advocate. Okay. And just to refresh your memory or to introduce it to you if you weren't here, thought leader, you have unique ideas and ways to communicate. If you're an influencer, you are charismatic. People follow you. They do what you say. They want to own they want to wear what you wear, eat what you eat. If you're a personality, you represent products well. It may not be you personally, your personal persona that you are sharing. You might just be a personality for a specific brand. You think about like T-Mobile and just different places, they'll have personalities. Now that personality, that may not be who they are in real life, but there's a personality that they are in, that they are that they are what that they are sharing, that they are representing, right, to represent the product. And then curator, the curator is you're I kind of messed around with a bunch of words. I almost used historian. I think last time I talked about being a scribe, but you're somebody that you give history, you find information, you pull together ideas, you are this quintessential, you're just a wealth of knowledge, right? And then an advocate, somebody that's always working on behalf of the disadvantaged, or working on behalf just of a specific cause. And so that's the first thing I want to connect back to. Remember, okay, those five personas. Then the last week I talked about engineering your corporate DNA, right? Let me get back to my notes there real quick because I got them in a bunch of pages. So I asked, how will you be recognized? How would you be recognized in a crowded marketplace? So you think of those first five personas as, those are general categories. Clear. And last week, Renee talked about the fact that she felt like she was two of them. And I shared how you could have a primary and a secondary personality, right? Yeah, we laughed at scribe, didn't we? Because I knew it wasn't the right word, but it was all I could come up with at the time. But I think curator is much more accurate. But, in the historical sense, like you're gathering information. These are the people, like Bill, I was going to say Bill Gates, but Henry Louis Gates, who is, doing our DNA history. Like he does all these specials around our heritage and the beginnings and the origins of things. Like he's such a wealth of knowledge. Ron and I are watching a series, of all these historians telling us about ancient civilizations and the origins of things and where things came from. I think political commentators could kind of fit into that, because they kind of operate in a historical vein. They're really kind of a curator. You think about a museum, where we first heard that term, it was in that museum sense, right? So that's why I thought curator is a more accurate term. But no matter where you feel like you fit in that, what I talked about was how are you going to be recognized in a crowded marketplace? And I introduced this concept that I've been working with, called engineering your corporate DNA. And I talked about, from a strategic standpoint, how you need to start doing that. But so tonight, I kind of want to connect those two ideas. And I think this is really a continuation of the engineering your corporate DNA idea. And let's see. I want to make sure I write notes for a reason. I should read them. So tonight, it's going to be about defining your brand architecture, which is, a fancy branding agency, branding principle, a fancy phrase that a principal of a branding agency would use, right? But what I want you to, when I think about brand architecture, last week we talked about laying the foundation so that you can build. Well, once the foundation is laid, you've got to create a structure, right? There's got to be a frame that you build on. I asked, have you ever seen a house without a frame? You just no, you have not. But the house has a bunch of different rooms, right? It's not just one big open space, unless it's a fabulous loft, which I've always wanted to have. But typically, if you're building a house, even if you live in a loft, oftentimes a loft is part of a bunch of other other loft structures as well. So, or other loft spaces, and then they are all housed in a structure. So either way, no matter how you look at it, you got to lay a foundation, then you got to create a frame, a structure. So brand architecture, I want you to think of it like that. Your brand architecture is the structure of your whole brand, overall. And it's almost like rooms. You think, and I want to talk about it tonight in terms of sub-brands. Defining your brand architecture is about figuring out what your brand, your sub-brands are, and then how they are related to each other. How do they work together? Now, you barely have figured out what persona that you fit into, right? And now I'm asking you to think about brand architecture. But there's a method to my madness, so hang on with me. And so because really the bottom line, what I realized is no matter what persona that you operate in, you have to think of yourself as a brand, right? We started out this entire series talking about your personal branding, and you have to think about yourself as a brand. And think about it, there is no brand out there that does not have multiple products, multiple components, right? So, my favorite, when you think of Apple, we think of computers, right? But Apple has the MacBook Air, they have the MacBook Pro, they have the iPad, so this is part of their brand architecture. They have all these products that solve different problems or for different uses and different types of customers, right? And so you need to be thinking the same way, creating your own product. So I told you, I'm telling on myself every week when I come up with a topic. I typically just think to myself, okay, what am I going through this week? What am I dealing with? And it really comes from there. And so this week, my team and I really for this week specifically, we were talking about a product that I have been developing since 2000, actually since the 90s, but officially created in 2011. My flip book, my flip productivity system. And so now we're working on developing really planning a flip productivity workshop for the end of this year that we're going to share with you and everybody. But there was kind of a breakthrough in the conversation around the development of that product. And that has taken me down this rabbit hole where I am really expanding my own imagination and thinking around this product and all of the pieces that go with it, the accessories, all the things that belong in it, and just giving myself the ability to imagine every possible thing that I could ever want it to be without limiting myself to just what's on the market already, or what I can already see, or what somebody else says is possible, or even that I think I may even be able to afford. I am stretching my imagination. And what it's showing me is there are so many opportunities in front of me to create and provide products that really help you to become, to have a fresh way of thinking and to give you the tools that you need to take action and to support your efforts. So I realized that's exactly what no matter what the brand persona is, that is the thing that we all need. We all need to develop our brand architecture, define what our products are, and then we got to produce it, right? Because you were born to produce. I talked, I think during that same 2 weeks ago when I was talking about how your gift is necessary, I talked about the fact that you are expected to take the gifts and talents and abilities that you have been given, that you have been granted. You are expected to increase what you've been given. So what better way to do that than with products and with, just really defining how you are going to show up in the marketplace. And in order to do all of that, you have to figure out how you are going to get it done. Productivity is at the center, at the core of everything. And so this is a very appropriate topic for me to be discussing with you, because I am always thinking about productivity. And my flip productivity system is for entrepreneurs to develop their own action plan for how they're actually going to make their vision happen, how you're going to create everything that you are imagining in your head. And you may have started on things, and if you're like me, I'm a creative, I've created a lot of things, started them, and maybe kind of got them out, but not fully developed. And so what we have to do is we've got to challenge ourselves to create our own deadlines, to push ourselves, to make ourselves get it done. And the one thing, and one of the steps, one of the tools that I've created is a series of flip worksheets that are available that I share and use in my flip workshops. And one of them is around creating an action plan. It's a produce worksheet. So I'm going to kind of share with you the steps from that. So you need to create an action plan. So to answer this question, how are you going to get it done? You got to create an action plan around 6 areas: your purpose, your people, your product, in plural, and product in a global sense, in your profit. If you're like me, and most of the entrepreneurs that I deal with, we have these great ideas and we'll start throwing money at those ideas without even having a plan for profit. And so we have to create an action plan for that. And then the last thing is we need an action plan for our process. Because if you have not defined a process for how you're going to actually distribute and get it done and distribute it, then you're going to find yourself creating a job instead of creating a company that serves you, and a company, as I mentioned once before as well, a company that can survive without you. And we should all be building our companies, as I talked about a while ago, as if we were going to sell it. And in order to do that, to get your company ready for sale, you have to set it up in a way that it functions without you. But we got to create a plan for that. It's not going to just happen. Okay. So let's jump in. So with, and I don't know, I might get through this. I might not. If I don't, we'll do the rest of it next week. But purpose, let's start there. So you have to create an action plan for your purpose. And most people, when you ask them what's your purpose, most of the time we can't answer it. And I think there's several reasons for that. And if you are in that situation, don't feel bad, because we all do it. As soon as somebody asks you a direct question, so now exactly what it is that you're trying to accomplish, sometimes we can find ourselves just rambling on and on and on about it. And what we need to do is, I want you to take the focus on your core business that you are creating. And then I want you to you have to have a mission statement. Now, we've heard this a lot, but how often do we do it? But you got to create a mission statement. And the mission statement is really, think about the word like mission impossible, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is. So your mission needs to include what it is why you exist. Like, what problem are you born to solve? Who are you trying to serve? What time frame? What's the parameters, like what location, what area of, what part, if you a global brand, are you a local brand, are you, like, what is it? And it needs to be a clear, succinct statement. Shouldn't be a long multi-sentence, like this whole paragraph, and none of that. It needs to be really simple. My mission is, right? We exist too. And make it really, really, really really clear, climple. I was going to say clear and simple, climple. That'll be our new word. But you have to do that. And I did a 7 Habits of Highly Effective People workshop with Stephen Covey decades ago. And it was probably one of the best workshops I'd ever attended. And in that, we had an exercise for writing our mission statement. And, we had to write several different versions of it. And that's what I want you to do. I don't want you to be satisfied. You write it down and you go, yeah, that's my mission statement. And you step away and keep going. I want you to write several versions and meditate on it and come back to it and look at it and then refine it so that you really feel like it reflects who you are. Share it with people, ask for input, and then come up with what that clear mission statement is for your company, right? And resist the urge to use just standard, like, professional language. Let your mission statement reflect the spirit of who you are, the spirit of the culture that you're trying to create for your company. Instead of using words like quality and professionalism and enterprise and all the business buzzwords, just challenge yourself to be free and just to speak, talk the way you talk. Start there, because remember, your business, we talked about the corporate DNA, and developing corporate. The word corporate means body, right? So, and we talked about the fact that as far as the U.S. government is concerned, a corporation is considered an entity, a person all by itself. That's why you want to incorporate. So the entity, the person that is your business, is now responsible for the liability. They're liable and not you personally. So it is a person, your corporation, right? So if it is a person, then we want to just treat it. we want to define its personality and all of that, right? So, a person has a tone, they have an accent, they have a way of speaking, a way of communicating. So you want to share that. You want your mission statement to reflect that the personage of your company, right? Then the other issue is you want to create a plan for your vision. And so purpose is the overarching idea, and overarching, like, that's the umbrella. And under that, you have your mission, vision, and values. And the way I like to talk about, really, I put them in terms of statements, right? Vision statements. I think a lot of times people will take mission and they'll make a bunch of statements inside of that and call that their vision statement, and they mix it up. There's a bunch of different ways to approach it, but I typically like to have a clear, short, succinct mission statement, because that's what it's called, right? And then a series of vision statements, plural. I like to do it in threes, fives, sevens. I don't know why, but that feels better. So in the vision statements, I think what you want to do is you want to describe the experience that you're trying to create for your customer, for your client, right? So again, creating an action plan for your purpose includes writing a clear mission statement and then writing a series of vision statements that describe what it is. And it may be, what kind of experience do you want people to have with your product? What's the ultimate impact you want? I liked those to be like action statements. They're action oriented, right? Because this is what we want to accomplish, and this is how we want people to experience. Like, if your company is a person, what kind of relationship do you want to have with your customers, and how do you want them to feel while they're working with you? So your vision statements, and then the last is your values. Last thing under purpose is values, because the values are the things. They're the barometers. They help you. They're like those bumpers. Remember when we were little and we were too small to bowl down the whole lane? They put those bumpers in the gutters so we wouldn't. So we would hit the pins. So your values are the thing that keep you in the center and keep you headed toward your mission, because they're the things that determine how you approach what you do. They're the things that help you make decisions about what you're going to participate in and what you're going to say no to. Your values. And I typically like to identify like 3 values. Personally, I value rhythm, revelation, and relationship. I'm a poet. I love music. I love art. I love, right. And I'm a thinker and a reader. And I love like learning and getting deep insights into ideas. And I love building with people. I love developing people. So, I'm not a real sentimental person. However, relationships are super important to me, because I'm a champion for people and their dreams. I want to see them do the best they can. And I want to be involved in relationships with people who are helping me develop and be the best I can. I love to laugh. So I like really silly, smart, crazy, funny people, right? So I live my life like that. So those are values. So if I'm in a situation where I can't have any close relationships with people, and there's no fun, and there's no rhythm, and there's no beauty, there's no creativity, no energy, I don't want to be involved in that. So those are values. In every single one of my brands and my businesses, I have 3 words that are the thing that matter the most to me, that I value. And so every time I do an event called a Vivid Party, I'm long overdue for one, so we're probably going to do a virtual one at some point. But the Vivid Party, it's about celebrating all you were designed to be. And I wanted the environment to be beautiful. I wanted the experience, the food, everything about it to be special. I didn't want to put out a vegetable tray and like you can see the look on my face, vegetable tray. I don't want to put out just a vegetable tray on some plastic and just slap it on a table and say here. I wanted everything about how the food was prepared, how it's presented. I wanted it on glass instead of plastic, and then eventually it was just simpler to get high quality plastic, right? Like clear. It had to be the theme, how it looked, how you felt when you walked through the door. All those things mattered. So you have to determine what are your 3 core values that your business is built on, that your business operates by. Okay. So creating an action plan for your purpose includes defining your mission, vision, and values. So then the next thing is creating an action plan for people. And here I've got 4 things. And really, let me go back to, so this is the sheet. You're probably not gonna be able to see it too well, but this is the worksheet. So, and at some point, like if you participate in the workshop in the future, you'll get one of these and I'll walk you through how to use it. But, you want to think about, you got to create an action plan in these 6 areas, and you need to think about your team and you want to think about your customer. So I just want to keep that in the back of your mind. We're not going to hit on that a lot tonight, but your mission, vision, and values for your team may have one focus. Right? It's just you're trying to accomplish the same thing. Like you're trying to build a company, but that company needs to serve your team and it needs to serve your customer, right? So, and that's going to take a whole lot more explanation, but I wanted to introduce that concept. I didn't want to let that go by because what made me think about it was this next phase, people. Everyone always talks about, and it's true, that we need to look at we need to determine who our buyer, who our customer persona is as we are developing products, because we want to serve them. We don't want to bring them to us and spend all our time. Excuse me. Get a little sip of water. And spend all of our time talking about ourselves. We want everything we do to be really centered around them. So that's what made me think of this. But to start, if you're creating an action plan for how you're going to get all this done, you have to think about it in terms of your team and in terms of the customer. And so first, with people, creating an action plan for people, you got to create an action plan for how you're going to recruit your team. So recruiting is the first step. And recruiting your team, and then quote unquote kind of recruiting, which isn't the most accurate word, but how you're going to attract your customer. So you can see how that would work for both. But recruiting, I used to think and barely, I'm just now getting out of this mindset. I always felt like I didn't have enough money to pay a full-blown team. So until I had the money, it didn't make sense to try to recruit a team, right? Which it's one of those chicken and egg situations, which comes first. And what I've started learning is you have to set a vision for what it is you want in every area. If I say I'm going here and I'm building this multi-million-dollar corporation, right? If that's my ultimate goal, in order for me to get there, I have to build a team. I cannot build greatness beyond myself the way I've envisioned without a team. So I have to recruit a team. Sometimes recruiting kind of happens by osmosis, right? Like it happens organically as you are growing and doing what you do. Your vision can attract people. Your gift, it's the word says, will bring you before great men. So if it's bringing you before great men, some of those great men are supposed to be helping you, right? They're supposed to be a part of your team. So recruitment can happen both ways. I mean, and there's really no linear path to it, but you need to set a plan for how you're going to do that. How are you going to get people to work with you? How are you going to get the help that you need? And we talked many weeks ago about creating an organizational chart and a structure for your company. Don't think about it just in terms of what you can do by yourself. And don't wait until you have all the money, all the resources, all the clients, all that. Noah built the ark before the flood came, before it even rained. And I think it talks about, the Bible indicates, it doesn't say a lot about the story, but it took 100 years, some ridiculous amount of time. And this man is still building. So planning, I liken it to building an ark, planning for your company, because you have to build something that does not exist, that to solve a problem that you don't fully understand, and to be ready to be a point of rescue and refreshing to people that you don't even know yet, that they don't know you, right? So it is a faith operation at every step of the way. You've got to believe in the power of your own vision, your own dream. And so you've got to start planning for what kinds of help. Like if you had help, if somebody came to you today and said, I want to help you, what would you have them do? What do you think would be the best way for them to step up and help you? And if you haven't even just thought about it a little bit, like if you had an assistant, what would an assistant do that could help really move you forward? What activities could you delegate to him or her so that you can be more productive? Okay. And you could just start there. Start simple with one thing, one person. If there was one person who could help you, what would they do? And what would be their primary role? And then you define that. Okay. So, but you got to create a plan for your people. How are you going to recruit your team? And then, ultimately how what kind of client you are working to serve, what kind of customer you're looking for. And then the next piece is training. You have to once you have those people, how are you going to train them? If you have that one person, how would you train them? Oftentimes we say, like I've said many times, I needed a virtual assistant. And I thought, okay, if I get a virtual assistant, then that's going to save my life. But then once I started having people come to me who were available to help me, it was like, well, I didn't have anything. I had to make a plan for exactly what it is I needed them to do, And of course, it takes more time. It's so much easier for you to do it yourself because you know how to do everything. But if you keep doing everything all by yourself, you only have so much capacity. So you're going to burn out. I mean, I love working. I love achieving. I love creating. I love everything about the process. But I have gotten so busy and have been pulled in so many directions lately in this stage of growth in my business that I'm going, oh, this is why I need help. And now I'm like, if I get a break, it's harder and harder for me to restart because I'm like, dang, I need a rest from thinking so hard. And what happens is we kind of work ourselves into a hole, into a trap. When we take on every single solitary role. I do believe that you should know how to do everything in your company so that you then can train the person that comes along who can take that off of your hands. So that way you're not at their mercy. You're also keeping your ownership and responsibility ultimately for the success of it. But you are then able to train this person effectively, not just tell them, hey, this needs to be done and walk away, but where you can say, this is how I want to approach it. Honey, Nedra, it's easy to get in that hole, but the way you get out of the hole is you just start creating a plan. Okay, if I had somebody who could do A, B, C, and D, or just A and B, then I can keep doing this. I don't want you to feel like you get somebody and you're just going to dump everything on them and let them do it. Because if you get a good person, it would be easy to just kind of walk away and let them do it because then you feel comfortable. Oh, they can. But then you're putting them in the situation where they're going to end up at exact same spot that you're in. If you're overwhelmed by everything you're doing now, you're going to put them in that same situation. And then they could one day just get over it and decide, oh, I'm leaving, and they're gone. And now you're stuck again. So that doesn't solve the problem. You still have to be engaged. When you delegate, they say you should inspect what you expect. And so when you are bringing somebody on to help you, there's going to be a season where it's a little extra work because maybe not a little. It might be a lot of extra work because you have to do your work and train them, but you have to train them. And that training is not just telling, but it's showing them, giving them an opportunity to do it, giving them feedback, answering their questions, creating a structure so that they can function and do well, right? Oftentimes, we're not setting up people who help us for success. So you have to do that. So you have to create a plan for how you're going to do that. How are you going to train the people? Now, let me go back. Recruiting doesn't mean you're hiring somebody full time, that even that you're going to pay them as a full-time employee. Recruiting could be you're getting a freelancer from the internet, from all of these freelance sites that are out there. And you can find, maybe you have to go through multiple people before you find someone that you feel like really helps you. Or you might have to find different people to do different things. So, but there's a way to get what you need done. But it has to start with you creating a plan for what it is exactly you need. And it's going to be trial and error. You're not like, you can find somebody that's great and then all of a sudden they're not available anymore, especially in the freelance marketplace. That can be really challenging. But you can't let that stop you from finding somebody else. And I know we all want to get to some level of comfort where we don't feel like we're just always pushing and hustling and striving. But at the same time, as the owner, as the CEO, as the founder of your company, you have to understand that that's your responsibility, is building your company. But you got to get other people so that you can be in the role to build your company. If you got to do everything and you're trying to get people and you're trying to train them, like all of that, that'll wear you out quickly. But you have to create a plan so that you can start delegating, find the people that you can delegate to, and creating some systems that'll support everything. And I'll get into that a little bit more later. But so people, you've got to create an action plan for people. And under that, how you're going to recruit people to help you, how you're going to find them, identify them, then how you're going to train them. And you have to create an action plan for communication. How are you going to coordinate? Like for me, I have a platform that I use for project management. I find it's so difficult to get people who don't use technology every day, in a corporate setting in their business, to engage with me in that system. But the reality is, the larger the project, or the more moving parts you have to a thing, or longer the process, the longer the time period, you have to have a way to communicate that's more efficient than emails. Have you ever gotten involved with multiple people in a long email thread? You're trying to talk about something and get feedback on a document or something. Oh, how painful is that? Oh my God. And then have you ever tried to go back to that thread to try to find something that you were trying to get back to, right? Some reference or some specific point in that conversation that somebody brought up, and you're trying to go back and find it. How do you do that? Because most people are not typing and adding subject lines in a way that's searchable. You may not remember exactly what the words are to search. How hard is that? Now, having another system isn't going to necessarily solve all of those problems, but at least you have I like having a central way to communicate with people that I have to collaborate with over an extended period of time. But you had to just create a plan for how you're going to communicate. Do you want people to send you text messages? Is email enough for you? Or do you want to use some other form? Would you prefer a phone call? Would you want to do in-person Zoom meetings? Do you want to do, how are you going to communicate? Are you going to follow up with a Google Doc when you're finished? You have to think through all those things. Otherwise, that's how things slip through the crack. What is that the test they do, the game you play where you get a long string of people and somebody says a sentence and they whisper it in a person's ear, and you go down the line. And by the time you get down the line, the sentence is totally jacked up. And the whole idea behind that is, just because you have communicated something does not mean that or attempted to communicate that your message has been received. Somebody could hear you, but they could interpret what you say differently than what you heard, what they say. And then you could say, well, do you understand? They'll say yes. You could say, does that make sense? Which I have a big habit of saying. But I'm always like, okay, I know I'm using a bunch of words, but does this make sense? And they can say, yes, it makes sense. But then when they go and try to do it later, it might not make sense anymore. Right? And that's just natural. That's what you call communication. This is what happens when people talk to each other, when people interact. So you have to create a plan for how you're going to follow up, how you're going to communicate, how you're going to make sure what it is you expect is actually what you're getting back. And maybe there was some flaw in how you communicated, and that's why you didn't get back what you were expecting, so but you have to create some kind of structure around how you want to try to communicate. And it's going to take lots of adjustments, because we're dealing with people. We're not machines. But even machines, when we use them, they don't necessarily always work well, and we are the ones inputting into the machine, so we may not be putting that information in accurately. So you just have to know, you've got to create a way. How are we going to communicate about this? How do you want to do you want to be you want to approve things before emails are sent out? Do you want to have a process? Is there multiple people who could proofread? Do you want this person to write documents for you? Do you want them to write social media content? And do you care if they create their own graphics? And, all of those things. How are you going to make sure your brand colors and messaging and all of that are carried out consistently? You got to communicate. And if you don't have a plan for how you're going to do that, it's going to be very difficult for other people to come in and help you and work with you. And then management. And really, management, some people are really good at and some people are not. And it may be something that you really like doing. But we have to learn how to do that as business owners without micromanaging. Have you ever had anybody stand over your shoulder? They tell you to do something and they stand over your shoulder and tell you how to do it. Or, you're driving in your car and your husband is trying to tell you how to drive. I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but yeah. So have you ever been micromanaged, and how does that feel, right? Nobody likes that, but you still have to manage. You still have to make sure that all the moving parts are working together. And as a business owner, you're responsible for that, unless you delegate that to someone else who is functioning as your manager. But then even that person, you have to manage. You can't just leave them hanging. You can't just let them define everything all by themselves. But you also don't want to be over them like a hawk, watching their every move and taking, I am a very particular person. I see things very, certain way. And I'm always making new connections and making changes. And I can see the big picture. And I also see that there's an extra space in between those two words, right? Like I'm just that type of person. And I know that there is an opportunity for me to make other people feel like that what they're doing is never good enough, and that I'm really picky or whatever. And I know that about myself. So I try my best to communicate as clearly as possible to help let people know I really appreciate them. I try to give them an opportunity to make changes to things. But I just know that about me, because of the way I think and how I function, that I could have that impact on people. But that doesn't mean that I can just let go of all responsibility for trying to manage them and trying to provide direction to get to the result that I want. And the result that I want is ultimate quality. I want to serve the client. I want to be able to fulfill our mission. So that's my ultimate desire. And I want to create an environment where my team can thrive, they can flourish, and they want to be there. And we're all having fun, and we're making money, and we're growing, and we're changing, and all of that. But all of that creates friction, right? There's no way for it to all go perfectly, but I'm doing everything I can as a manager, no matter who it is I'm dealing with, trying to communicate with them as best as I possibly can, and not abdicate my role and my responsibility for helping to bring about the ultimate thing that we're looking for, that I'm trying to accomplish, that we're trying to accomplish as a team. So you have to create an action plan for your people. Okay. And I knew it. So I'll probably touch on product, and then we'll maybe, I don't know if I'll get through it very well. Maybe we'll pick up next week and do some more about that. But let me at least introduce this, because this was what we started talking about, creating your brand architecture. You have to create a plan for your product, and you you are a product all by yourself, but then you should also create products. And I say products. Now we hear a lot about people creating courses, doing Facebook groups, membership programs, in-person events, webinars, pre-recorded webinars. Like writing a book, doing a workbook, creating a journal. Like we're hearing all the time about that. But the reality is that if you are a brand, if you have a company, that company needs to have a broad spectrum of products that you include in your brand architecture. You have to define how these things relate to each other. As Gwen Witherspoon coach, I am the host of Vivid Talk Live, but Vivid Talk Live is part of a whole suite of interactive platforms designed for the personal and professional development of entrepreneurs. So Vivid Talk Live at some point is going to kind of be on its own. I'm going to throw it out of the nest and it's going to fly on its own, even though I'll be the host probably still, but it'll have a life of its own somewhere else. But right now it's part of the Gwen Witherspoon coach brand architecture and included on my website. And then I have Flip Productivity, a series of tools, a printed planner as the core, and a series of accessories, a suite of accessories that you can use to help you be more productive. And then I have, so I can go on and on, but you need to do the same thing. And so a blog, a vlog, your video, all those things are part of that architecture, and I need you to define that. So you want to create an action plan for your products. So I want to talk about, there's 4 issues to consider. One is positioning. And we even talk about, I know you've heard this, about writing a positioning statement for your business. We talk about doing market research and analyzing competitors and all those things. I used to get so intimidated by all of that, right? But now what I'm recognizing is you have to do it first and foremost. You got to say, okay, how does what you are doing differ from all the other people? I talked last week, looking out into doing analysis in the marketplace is really about seeing what everybody is doing, and you can pick and choose. You don't have to copy anybody specific, but look for the qualities, the things that you see they're doing well that really speak to you, that make your soul sing, that you can incorporate into what you are doing. And then you also want to look, because you want to see, where are their gaps? Where do I want to be? I was talking to an entrepreneur a while ago, and he said that he looked at the transportation marketplace. We have all these opportunities now to do Uber and Lyft, and I'm sure there's other services that have popped up. We have taxis, we have the bus, we have all these different ways that we can be transported, and they're all fighting to have the most competitive price. And he looked at all of that and decided, you know what? I'm not going to go for all of that. I'm not going to compete on price. I'm not going to do this, the average consumer. I'm going after the high market. I'm going after the people that need private cars and that are going to pay a lot more money for that. And so that was he decided that's how he was going to position his business. You got to think about your business the same way. How are you positioned? And you might position yourself right next to somebody that's doing almost exactly the same thing, and then compete with them on price or better service or, whatever. But you've got to create a plan for how you're going to position. I am always trying to position myself in the luxury area. I don't like anything cheap. I don't like anything tacky. I want everything to be really high quality and well done and beautiful and all of those things. So you might be the same way, but then don't miss out on the opportunity maybe to create a sub-brand that's a lower price. So we've done that with Adam Red. Adam Red is a full service branding agency. And what we want to do is we want to serve those clients that need a team of people to work on their behalf, to build and grow multi-million-dollar brands, because they don't have the time to sit there and do everything by themselves. Or clients that need a personal brand that they want to grow to a multi-million-dollar company. We want to set them up so that they have what they need, so that they have the foundation they need for growth. But then I'm always running into people that just got a hot side hustle or maybe totally just starting up. And I have a heart. I want to help everybody. So what we did was we created Spread Digital, which is a sub brand. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just a brand that's been positioned to help people at an earlier stage of development in their business. And it gives us a way to help everybody. But I can't help everybody through the Adam Red brand because everybody doesn't have the money to pay a team of 4, 5, 6 people to work for their, for their business. And so you may be in that same situation. You can create a product specifically for a certain demographic of people. And if you can do that well and you can make money on it, why not? And you really, people, we always talk about telling people that you don't do too many things. I think if you have limited resources and you don't have a whole lot of money and you're just starting out, and you don't know what you're doing and you're just developing your team, like there's so many different components to building a business that, yeah, you want to focus. But I think first and foremost, you want to focus on who you are as a brand. And then you start developing and building from there. But you got to think about where you are. How are you positioned? How are you positioned in the marketplace among all the choices that are out there? And, there's a concept called blue ocean strategy where you want to create not just go where everybody else is going, but you find a place in the ocean, right? You think about the vastness of the ocean. You want to find a space that nobody's in at all. You might be able to do that. But either way, that's still about positioning. How are you going to position yourself? And then pricing, competition. I've been talking forever. I'm going to shut it down. So pricing, competition, and sales. We're going to talk about that next week. How you're going to price your product. We all struggle with that. What does the competition look like and how you're actually going to sell it? So once again, I want you to go to gwenwitherspoon.com to get all the information. Oh, that's the replays. You can see everything there. Watch all the replays every week. I put the last week's episode here on that homepage, make it easy. And we got so many that we had to move the replays over to their own page. Make sure that you are following at Gwen Fuchsius. Wait, it doesn't want to switch. There we go. At Gwen Fuchsius on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Periscope, and Gwen Witherspoon Coach on YouTube. And I will see you next week. Make sure you tell somebody about Vivid Talk Live. We are here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's just my delight to help you to really learn a fresh way of thinking for all you were designed to build. See you next week. Bye.